that you're waiting to hear Rikard's story about moving down a regenerative path. So before he gets started, I just want to say a few words. We've known each other just long enough that I didn't feel that I needed to write a script, but I really feel like I would like to say publicly thank you to Rikard, because he stepped in after I didn't really know where I was going to go next. So when I was farming at Lill-Nägels, that came to an abrupt finish. And then I just had this idea that I had to keep doing something. And I thought, who do I know that might be willing to entertain these ideas? And so I brought the initial concept for the project that we'll talk about this afternoon to Rikard. And he immediately thought of a place and said, why don't you put together some more plans? I did so. And then also, not according to my own input, but Rikard said, this is actually fairly interesting. Why don't we try to turn it into a project? It never occurred to me I was going to do this as a hobby on the side. It wouldn't look like it does now. I would have started small, trust me, not too crazy. But we're here today because Rikard is, well, he's a very open, innovative person. He works in agriculture with SLC. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the full name of your organization because it's like this long in Swedish and I've only just learned Finnish. And so he's involved at policy level, he's involved with farmers, and then he runs his own farm in Espoo and in Kirkkonummi. It's split into two places. And so today you're going to hear about his journey into regenerative agriculture here in Finland on a large, he says he's a small farmer, but when I come from 2.5 hectares to 80 plus then his forest, he's like, oh, but then I have all this forest land. So he says he's small at 60 to 80 arable hectares. That's a lot of space, as we've seen kind of these ideas with Joel this morning. So warm welcome and a big thank you to Rikard for joining us today. He had some other things that were on the agenda, so we're also very fortunate that he could be here. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Joshua, for these kind words. I really appreciate them. And you know, first time I met Joshua, well, that's over 5 years ago or something. So he's a really interesting guy, and I like interesting people. So I try to get interesting people around me. And for some time we didn't have more contact, but then we started to talk about this project, and really, as you said, it's developed to this really interesting project. I'm really proud of what you're doing, because this is really Joshua's project, and thanks to Novia and the financier Keskus and other financiers, this is possible, and it's really exciting for me also, and of course I'm really happy to host this pilot project. I had this possibility to do that. So yes, but now I have to.
Now he's on. So
yeah. Hey,
I don't know if there's a remote, so I can also. Do you want me to?
Yeah, I'm grateful if you can do it.
Point at me with your glasses.
Okay. And we have about half an hour. I will finish at 1, and I also try to save something for discussions and questions. I really appreciate if you have some comments also during this presentation. It's much more. It's nice to get some feedback. But perhaps firstly something about myself. This is really a boring presentation compared to the previous, because I did it in a couple of hours last night, and I just put down the things. It does visually not so nice. But as Joshua already said, sixth generation, or I'm a sixth generation farmer on Lill-Nägels, which is the farm that hosts this project, and it's in Kirkkonummi, and also on a farm called Råbäck Gård in Espoo. And really shortly about Råbäck, it's because we have these two farms in our family, because of this farm in Kirkkonummi was rented to Soviet Union, and we have to, in 10 days, our family had to evacuate. And And it was for 50 years originally the contract with Soviet Union, but it was Finland got it back, or because then it was state that owned or Finland owned the land after 12 years, and then the family had the possibility to buy it back. So therefore these two farms, and they are 7 kilometers apart. I wrote down part-time farmer because I think it's really important to point out that a lot of farmers here in our region, they are part-time because and they are mainly grain producing farms. So even 100 hectares is not enough for today for a farmer. So of course, also for that reason, I'm interested in this project because what it can open up for new possibilities and so on. I'm also an agronomist from Helsinki University, and then as Joshua said, senior advisor at SLC, which is a Swedish-speaking farmers union, and that has helped me to also build these networks to different parties, and I'm really happy about that. But okay, I will start with this. I think I have two pictures, but this is the first one, and this is a picture that really started my sort of. I think this it was Joshua who wrote my subject region journey. I thought it was a good. So this one started my regenerative journey, and it's a much thanks to Tuomas Mattila, who's a really talented expert in regenerative agriculture, farmer, advisor, senior scientist, works for Carbon Action Project, which is, I will mention it later, it's a really important project because you're not doing anything yourself. You have to cooperate and look at what kind of resources, what kind of people you have around you, and I want to give you all the advice that be active and open-minded and try to find these good people and organizations who you can cooperate with. So he showed this, I think it was 5 years ago, and I think it's wrong English to say a picture that blew my mind. I think. I was thinking about it. Well, okay. And you know, we talk a lot about sustainable agriculture, but this picture opened up for me that sustainable agriculture is not enough. We have to have a regenerative agriculture. And on this scale, you see, he has tried to keep it simple, talking about soil quality and how the soil quality has gone worse during times, and we're not really following this soil quality in Finland, perhaps in a so good, but I think a lot of farmers, they see themselves that the soil quality it's going down, and here you can see Tuomas put this thing in 40 years that he has felt his father was a farmer before him, that something has been wrong, and the soil quality has gone down, and now we have to stop it, but sustainable is not enough if we want to get back to the good status. So we have to regenerate the soil. You can take the next one. A few personal reflections. Perhaps I already shared them a little bit with you already, but I want to make it clear for everybody that I'm not an expert in regenerative agriculture. I'm a normal farmer. I'm just interested in these things, and I'm happy with myself that I've done some things to do a change, you know, because we were talking about that as a farmer, you know, it comes a new year and you say, okay, it didn't work last time, but forget about it. We try again. And you can keep on like this in 10 years, but and you just think that it will get better, but no, we have to do some changes. The regenerative practices and to understand them and develop as a farmer has been during the last years very important as an inspiration in developing the farm. If I'm honest, I can say that before I met Tuomas and these other, Joshua and other inspiring people, I was really a little bit lost with my farming. I didn't really think that it's fun anymore. But because of this, I have got new sort of look into the future that I think more positively on the farm, and I think it's really, as Joel's presentations, it's really interesting, you know, what he was telling and what you can do and how you can make things better and understand the biology and so on. And also I think it's important for us farmers, and that comes to everything in life. You can always do things better and keep an open mind, and also don't be too hard on yourself if you make mistakes, because mistakes is a part of development. You have to, and therefore also regarding this project, so we just have to do it, and we will make mistakes, but you know, we learn from the mistakes and so on, and then identify these interesting developments and try to cooperate with people who are smarter than yourself. That's very important.
Yes.
You have to always find people who are smarter and then take out knowledge from them. Yeah, you can take the next one.
Which is why we're here.
Yeah, that's why we're here. Yeah.
Okay, so everything just turned off.
Okay.
Display decided that, yeah.
The computer is smarter than...
Yeah. We are still at time. Usually, you know, it goes black when the time is.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone has more experience running this, so smarter than we are. Okay, we're on the next slide. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I was already mentioned this, that it's all about networking, important people, networks and resources. I listed a few of mine, just, you know, to help you on your own road to regenerative agriculture, because this has been mine. And really, it's been mentioned a couple of times already today, this Baltic Sea Action Group's Carbon Action Project, which started, I don't remember how many years, but Tuomas, Mattila, Juuso, Joona, other people are active in this project, and they have been really good in gathering resources and popularize them in a smart way for farmers' use, you know, because on the farm level we think, what is practical, what is possible to do? So they have been working a lot with this, what kind of a cover crop, how should you think about different things? And it's still, I think, very simple principles in farming can be very complicated. Already to decide about the crop rotation. I will show my crop rotation, but it's not finished, I think, but something. Local community of farmers is really important, and Joshua also has become a part of this community with my neighbors. You know, practical farmers are very smart. They say, oh, that you can't do like this because it's not possible. How have you been thinking about this? And you know, small things. What should be done first and what should be done at what situation. And then I have to mention Lill-Nägels permaculture, Joshua's farm in Espoo. Nowadays, Finnish agroecology, I think, is the name. So it was really interesting to visit this farm and see this incredible work in a small scale. And really, one reason that you took contact with me, that you said that, you know, I've been trying out these systems here in Lill-Nägels, but I would want really to test it in a bigger scale. So what we're really doing in Lill-Nägels is simulating this 1 hectare as a big scale project. And that's really important to think. It's not a market garden. It's the idea is that, and Joshua will talk more about the project. And then my beekeeper, Stanislav Jas, Stanin Honey,
because I'm also a small apple producer. I have a small apple orchard for direct sale that I have constructed a concept I'm very proud of. It's a contract-based direct sales model. These are important partners for the farm. And groundswell, have somebody of you heard about groundswell? I want to recommend it for bigger scale farmers, because that's a large scale farming fair or festival in the in UK. I visited 2 years ago. It's really also inspirational for a farmer, because it's not only about the machinery and people are trying to sell some new things. It's also about the idea of agriculture and regenerative agriculture. And then we haven't, I think, even talked about this with Joshua, taking part in a project called Lyckan, which is developing tests for climate compensation. And we did some soil scanning on Råbäck this autumn. We haven't talked about it. And Jussi Knapi, who has this machine, I don't know the model. It's measuring, you know, compaction and what do you call it? Well, different soil quality aspects with the machine. They are driving over the soil and that we have to try to get it also to this plot, I think, to do this. It would be interesting. And then Lill-Nägels Agroforestry pilot project, bold project, testing something totally new. I have to also mention one book which has been important for me. There are other books also, but I can recommend you to read this Dirt to Soil by Gabe Brown. Gabe Brown is an American farmer who's been working for a long time with these regenerative farming principles. And a small just comment about we have a good system in Finland with this Neuvo 2030 advisory system that makes it possible for farmers also to get for free or choose for free advisory services to try to change your farm. And I recommend all the farmers who have the possibility to use this subsidy, because it's only farmers who can, not a market garden. You have to have this, you have this farm number and be in the system in Finland. So you can use this to get high quality advisory services available for yourself. Next. Yeah.
We have time.
Yeah, but
And there's a 10-minute gap between yours and mine.
Okay, yeah. Milestones. I was thinking about the milestones are really now very, from my perspective, they are quite close in the history, as you can see here. But the history of our farm is very typical in this area, that in the beginning of the 1970s, we still had milking cows on the farm, and almost all farms had milk production. But then there was a change in the subsidy system, and also in our case, it was my grandmother who had the cows, and she was very old already, and my father was PhD in not in agroforestry, but in agricultural and forest science. So so he worked with other things. So it wasn't possible. And after that, we had in really small scale egg production. My mother had about 100 hens for a very long time when it was really not popular. But when she stopped, then it got really popular. So because I think it's for perhaps a 10-year period, it's been really popular to have also small-scale egg production. And really, if you simplify this history is that during 50 years it was mainly grain production, really spring wheats, oats, perhaps a little bit oil crops. A certain rotation, but you know, very simple, because yeah. And then 2013 was this establishment of small high density apple orchard from this contract based direct sales, and this is now, well, this coming year will be the 4th year when we are having on my farm a crop rotation plan in place, and this was constructed in cooperation with Tuomas Mattila and Juuso Joona, and we put the total farm is 77 hectares, and we have 60 hectares in cultivation about. So this area is divided in 6 cultivation blocks, and we try to then keep a fixed crop rotation, which I will show later. And then 22 we started this project in cooperation with Joshua Finch and Novia, and really I have to point out that Joshua is the brain behind the project, and I try to give some input, but it's quite modest, and Novia is the one that making this possible. If we make it if we make it simple. And I put also this because this is really a big thing in our farm, that this year was the first time now we used compost on part of the farm. Because I will show the crop rotation. We have 2-year cover crop, perennial cover crops in the system, and that means that every year we terminate 1 block, and before the termination we will put on compost on that. So on 1/6 of the cultivated area okay, this was the first time, but my plan is to continue with it. Yes, and then it will be terminated, and we sow in a winter crop of some kind, winter wheat this year. Okay, next one. Yeah, and here is this. Now I because this is, of course, I think as a farmer is always interesting. So, okay, how in practice is things done? I try to really simplify it. I don't go into. This is, I think, the main points in our crop rotation at the moment. As you see, this greens, it's in Finnish, in Nurmi. It's a perennial cover crop. So we have 2 blocks, and they are moving like that. And we use multi-species cover crops. So we have up to 15 species, and sounded like it's a good idea when we listen about this presentation. And then, just to keep it simple, after cover crop is terminated, winter crop is sown, and as I said, on this area, compost is spread before termination. And except this, we use, because we have this system with keräjäkasvi, fånggröda. So that's really what we mean with cover crop. But I use this cover crop for everything. Yeah. So, but annual, yeah, you could say annual cover crop. So 2 kilos per hectare white clover cover crop sown together with, as he also was recommended in Finland. So we sown together with cash crop at least on 1 block. But I would want to have, could have more also, but this is how. And late in the autumn, after cash crop is harvested, the field is cultivated once. We use a Kongsgilde Vibroflex cultivator to put back the cover crop a little and make seedbed preparation for next year easier. And fields with only cash crop are shallow cultivated in autumn with goosewood blade cultivator. and earlier we were plowing the field. So we have moved over to a lighter cultivation. Two things in planning, I haven't really decided yet, is I would want to do subsoiling, because we have this compaction problem. And I know already the machine I would want is Agrisem Cultiplow, I think it's the name, cultivator, and I would want to do subsoiling on the first year cover crop area to make then the roots go down in the soil deeper. Because when we have 2 years, we could perhaps do it already in the autumn, but I think if we already do it the first year, then we have the whole first year and the second year to make that where the plants can work. And then also it would be really nice to and I have done it once, but I had a bad technology, so I haven't done it after sowing a single species cover crop into winter crop in the spring. So you would get also a cover crop in the winter crop, but that's something that you should do in the spring. So, do you have some questions about this? We can get back to that. Otherwise, I think I have one, then we can, because also some discussion. Yeah. Hey, then a few thoughts and ideas about these agroforestry agricultural systems. It's still a very new concept in Finland, and when I work also with the Ministry of Agriculture in Finland, from my work I have, Joshua know that I have been trying to put forward this in the system, but it's not really recognized, for example, in the Finnish CAP plan. CAP plan means the plan for, what do you call it, to implement the common agricultural policy in Finland. Probably there's something with the name really, because we have, when it's forestry, we have a lot of trees as you see outside, so people don't understand that why are you putting trees on the field. So it's that simple, I would say. Very exciting system, as I said, in challenging the monoculture as a predominant agriculture system. For me, it's also important not only the system in itself, but also what can the farm take away from the project to the whole farm development. I think we can learn a lot, practices that could be used in the sort of monoculture. And for me, at least, it's interesting because it's not only the soil health, it's also the biodiversity aspect in the agroforestry system, I would say, more in other systems. And as farmers, or as a society, we know, for agriculture, we have 3 big questions. We have water protection, we have carbon sequestration, and we have biodiversity. So this really sort of helps in a lot of the questions that we have to fix in agriculture. And then all this, what we heard is about soil health and nutrient availability when growing different species side by side. It's really interesting, this coexistence with different plants and well, I have said to you many times, it's really crazy. The whole project is really crazy because it's really hard to and therefore I think it's also really interesting. Challenges, practical implementation in scaling up the model. I think we have been discussing it a lot. How to keep down the labor cost by mechanization of crucial work tasks requiring manual work. And I think it's really important in this project to think about this aspect, because this is not thought to be a sort of a manual work project. This is supposed to be a project that we have to try to manage, in another way, and then on Lill Club, for example. and that's only one thing. Fencing of fields to keep out it's really, you know, it might feels like a small question, but that's a real problem, because so in a way these agroforestry systems, they have to be put in some place where they are for a longer time, and then, or otherwise we have to find some kind of a movable fences that are easy to put up and keep out, because otherwise, you know, we have trees and bushes, everything will be eaten up from somebody else. So that's really a challenge. But hey, this is, I think this was the last. And I think I used the whole time. No questions.
Well, there's still 7 minutes between
okay.
here and there, so we'll talk about the first two of the challenges over the next couple of hours. The fencing is, well, I'm just glad we have one for now. It's a common issue across all agroforestry systems. So,
yes.
Do we have, I don't see the chat here. Let me see, we can check the chat. Does anyone here have some questions? You'd like to direct them this way?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got higher. Folks, I can't see you.
Who will start? Joshua. Here are two.
Oh, we're going to start on the far wing this time.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, I was interested in what in your experience has been the biggest challenge in transitioning from conventional into this direction. Has it been like a mindset shift or a technological thing? What have you found the most?
No, well, I have got some new machines, a few small things, but I think one thing that is, of course, weeds are one problem that really. I didn't mention that I'm a conventional farm. That's important, by the way. I'm not an organic farm, so we can use some herbicides and so on, but we want, of course, do it as little as possible. But and going from plowing, then you have perhaps one thing is this weed issue, and also when you have this shallow cultivation and this type of, you know, that how do you kill this, or how seriously should you be if you have something living, you know, also in the next rotation, so on, and then perhaps also a little bit this, what do you call it, when the crop you always get seeds from the previous crop, you know, that if it starts to get a problem that you get in other crops, because we still have this monoculture. As you noticed, I have peas peas in my crop rotation, and that's a crop that would be really good in a polyculture with oats, for example. But the buyers are not accepting it. They want to have clean peas. So you cannot do it if you don't sell it to an animal farmer, for example. So yeah, but the challenges has been somehow that the biggest challenge has really been how to do things, you know, and it's really funny, you know, a crop rotation on paper looks really simple, but when you have to, I had to work, you know, a lot of this simple crop rotation, that how should this be done, and it's a process, and I would say this is not. Nothing is finished. I think we are developing it, but one of the key or the corners in the system is, I think, that you have to keep your crop rotation, not to start to forget about it. You have to try it, and I don't know how long we will go with this 2 years, but the idea is it came really from you, so Joona, because I had this 1 year or 1 year cover crop, perennial cover crop, But then we just decided to get really a good effect on the soil, to keep it as 2 years. And also from economical point of view, remember that this is not, we don't sell these 2 blocks at all. So it's of course a cost in a way, but I see it as an investment in the soil, and I hope that we perhaps can then at some stage that the perennial cover crop would be perhaps just one block or something like that, or go down in that. It's quite heavy now, I have to say, really. But positive, I don't know, Joshua, what you say, but do you feel that we have seen some positive in our soils? Because you also look at the soils and the whole farm. But I feel myself, anyhow, that I can see a positive development.
You can see it, and you can even hear it in the right conditions. So before, when we would dig soil profiles, we wouldn't find any earthworms. You might find a few burrows, but no one's home. And then after a few of these cover crops that he's been doing, they start to come back. And when there's water moving through, and you dig a soil profile, you can hear the water moving through the tunnels when the cars stop driving by for a second. You can actually hear the effect, so it's really neat to hear, or stand in the field and hear that water actually start to percolate into the soil, whereas before it would have been standing, or it still stands. It takes a long time sometimes to get these things going, but there has been an improvement. You can see it with your own eyes. So.
Yeah, in that sense it feels good, because you can see that this 2-year cover crop. I showed these pictures when we dug this. So we had to put in a drainage pipe on the field, and then we dig up down to 1.5 meters or something. And you saw the effect of the cover crop it was 60 centimeters, I would say. Yeah. But I've seen it before also. It works very effectively, but you can destroy it in a very short time. So it's very important that you, in your cultivation system, that you have a system that you don't destroy this good structure, because it's really easily destroyed also. So yeah.
Well, one more question. Are you ready for one more? Do you want to take one more?
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned water quality, but you didn't go into any other detail. I mean, first of all, with your cover crop, of course, you've got water now moving much better through the soil, not sitting on the surface and capping on the soil. But when I'm driving through Finland, particularly I look at, say, Paimion-joki or Aura-joki, and I see farmers cultivating right to the river edge, and then you look at the quality of the water. It's full of soil, so you're getting a lot of soil erosion, and then there's, of course, it's going into the Baltic Sea Action Plan to try and stop that. So what is your view on having barriers such as Paju willows in a, say, narrow strip either side, using native species?
I think it's very smart
and holding the soil back.
And in fact, in our this CAP plan, so when it comes to, I give another example. I think that's very smart, and it's really, I think it's a lot of education, you know, that because it doesn't really cost to a farmer to do these things.
No.
But another thing is that in our national CAP plan we have this biodiversity strips now system, and it's a very simple thing to do on a farm level, and it gets a lot of positive image for the farmers, I would say, and so on. So
I'm not seeing it being done.
No, that's right, and this, I think this is for example my organization, and we are at the moment we are just publishing a biodiversity roadmap, or what you can call it. So this is something that the farmers are discussing, and we are aware of because we did it with scientists at Lill-Nägels and Svenska, which are our, you know,
Yeah, I know.
And if we don't do anything, the biodiversity will go worse. So we have to stop the worsening situation, and it's quite easily done if you do certain things. And one very important is also these annual cover crops. You know, we have about today, I think, or 2 years ago, we had 100,000 hectares. But for biodiversity and also for carbon sequestration, we should get it quickly up to about 250, 300,000. So, and we have a system, you know, farmers get 100 euros per hectare using cover crops. So there's also an incentive.
So there's a big incentive.
There is a big incentive, yeah. But it goes slowly. It goes slowly. So we as a representative of the farmers' union, I'm also willing to really say to our farmers, our members, that we have to do something for sure.
I mean, when I talk to friends from Lill-Nägels, and so if there's a very high incidence of rain, like in the autumn 2 years ago, the Aura that goes through Aura-Yorkie, that goes through Turku, carried more agricultural silt and pollution than for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
In one
That's right.
rain event.
That's right.
Which I can see if there's better moisture water management on fields in farms, then that would.
But finally, just one thing, I think that the good thing is that there are certain things you can do that are good for all these three things. They're good for water protection, they're good for carbon sequestration, they're good for biodiversity.
Yeah.
And so we have to find these measures, you know, on the national level also. Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Rikard.
Right.
Yeah, I appreciate that.